Hey guys, this is Red and Blue, the YouTube channel devoted to all things PSG in English. Please subscribe. Today, I want to talk about a couple of different things. First, we're halfway through the week, meaning we're about at the midway point between the Inter Miami match and the upcoming Bayern Munich quarterfinal. So pressure is mounting. The squad has been back in training as well. So I thought it's a good time to do a quick check on like where things stand as we go into the game. The week started slow because Luis Enrique gave 2 days off to the player after the Inter Miami game. I think like the staff is really trying to manage the level of fitness of the team. So they've been giving quite a lot of days off. The team anyway has the afternoons off. So it's pretty light in terms of training, which isn't completely surprising given where we are in the season. And I think like they're trying, and they've said so, they're trying to really like manage not only like the physical element but also the mental element, and trying to keep the players engaged, but trying to really like keep them from saturating with a very long season. So the players had 2 days off. Usually it's 1 or 2 days, but pretty standard from what we've seen in this Club World Cup. They were back in training yesterday, so on Wednesday. The main question at this point was the level of fitness of Fabián Ruiz, who, if you remember, was substituted at halftime along with Marquinhos in the Inter Miami game. And he played that first half of that game with a strap around his parts of his legs. So there were a bit of question mark around how he's doing, his level of fitness, and whether he'll be training with the rest of the squad. He was back in training with the rest of the squad, so no drama there. The club didn't really communicate, but the sense that we get is that there's no real drama with the player, and he should be able to be part of the starting 11 against Bayern Munich. We'll do a full preview of that game either tomorrow or Saturday before the game. Saturday my time, so like early Saturday for you guys, depending on where you stand in the world. But I think like at this point, it looks like the main uncertainty is going to be whether Dembélé starts that game or like get some game time coming in at halftime or the 60th minute or something like this. Against Inter Miami, he played about 30 minutes. The quality of that was not the best we've seen from Dembélé, to be quite candid. But obviously after a few weeks off on injury and at the end of a long season and so on, wasn't really surprising. We'll see the signals that we get from the player and from the club going into the Bayern Munich game, but right now it looks like that's going to be the main uncertainty. On the Bayern Munich side, for them, like the question mark at the back of their game against Flamengo was around Kingsley Coman, our former academy player and TT in Paris, who came off that game injured, and it looked like a pretty big injury, to be honest. If you look at the footage, so he did some tests and so on, and apparently nothing. So apparently he's training with the Bayern Munich squad. He should be available for the game. If you remember, he was the player who scored in the Champions League final that we played against Bayern during COVID. So obviously he's got a little bit of a multi-layer history with us. And so personally, I would rather have seen him like not fit for this game, but it is what it is. We'll have to make do with what we've got. And then the other one is Leroy Sané, who is no longer a Bayern Munich player. Given the organization of this competition is just like a wonderful cake of nonsense, if you ask me. So his contract of Leroy Sané was ending at the end of June, and so he ran to the end of his contract, and now like he's no longer a Bayern Munich player because he's moving to another club, Galatasaray in Turkey. So he essentially left the squad, and so that's one less offensive option that they have to their disposal. So yeah, like we'll see what they can cook up with this, but just yeah, like the silliness of the way this competition is organized is a bit staggering sometimes. So yeah, and then like back to PSG as well, a couple of like very short transfer tidbits. Zabarni is still like pretty much on hold. We're hearing it's progressing slowly. The club was hoping to get him signed before 3rd of July, and like as days went by, it looked increasingly unlikely, and like I don't know, it's not happening, obviously. Um, but he's still the leading contender for that defensive spot. He's still like the top priority for the club. So we'll see if it happens in the normal window. On the way out, though, Skriniar in Fenerbahce looks like really in a good going in a good direction in terms of negotiations, and at the same time, like Fenerbahce is also like showing a lot of interest in another one of our players, in Marco Asensio. And apparently Jose Mourinho, who's the coach over there, would be very keen to get him. They're also looking at getting, I think, Victor Osimhen. I saw something about this, so it's looking like crazy town in Turkey again. Um, we'll see. We'll see, like, where they find the money and what they can make do. But if they can take Skriniar and Asensio off of us, like, all the better for me. And if they have some monies to give us as well, like, that's even better. So I'll keep you posted on this, but it's kind of the main transfer chatter that's been going on. And then the second thing I wanted to talk about, more of a bigger piece of conversation, I guess, is around TV rights in France for Ligue 1. If you remember, and if you've been following for a while, it's been crazy town. Simply put, like crazy town for a while, for years and years. So I'll try to like give you the history and like just run to where we are right now and like what's coming up now. Historically, and I'm talking, 90s, 2000s and so on, like 2010s, Canal Plus was always the big partner for Ligue 1. They were always the broadcaster. They were always like paying very nicely. They had a great product as well in terms of the shows around it and the journalists and the comments, and like it was like really like a complete like love story between the two. And then like a few years ago, like the LFP, who organizes Ligue 1, decided they could make a bit more money by going with MediaPro. MediaPro is a Spanish organization, and typically what they do is that they buy the broadcasting rights from the leagues and the organizers of the leagues, package them, and then like resell them at a higher price to make money. Except in the case of MediaPro, they didn't find anyone to sell them off to at a higher price because they had already like overpaid for it, on top of what Canal Plus was already overpaying for it. So they tried to create their own channel, which didn't work. It tanked. That was during COVID, and that was like the beginning of a lot of trouble. So as a consequence of that, the rights of broadcasting for Ligue 1 were passed on to Amazon for a while, who broadcasted Ligue 1, did a pretty good job at it, but very quickly realized that even at the discounted rate that they were paying, the money they were putting in versus what they were getting out was just not making any sense at all. So they stopped doing that. Last negotiations was at the beginning of last season, and DAZN was the one who got the rights at that point. At that point, the organizer was like talking about trying to get 1 billion euro for the rights. In the end, they got like not even 500 million. So that's just like an example of how like completely out of whack they are, in terms of understanding the value and what people could put and the negotiations and so on. So they got less than 500 million, with DAZN getting 8 out of the 9 games of each league day, and beIN Sport coming in to get 1 per day. So that was the deal. DAZN like quickly realized that for them too, even at a discounted rate, even with Saudi money coming in, even with not really like, it's not a product that you make money with anyway, but like it wasn't making any sense for them commercially. They tried to sell a product at a very, very high price. So if I remember, like to get the DAZN package, I think it was about like initially like 30 or 40 euro per month. So crazy town high price, which obviously like people didn't go for. They went for like piracy, and IPTV like skyrocketed, leading to all sorts of trouble. They weren't making their targets. And so at the end of the season, they went back to the league and went like, this doesn't make sense to us, so we're breaking the contract. And so we're back to square one, and Ligue 1 is left without a broadcaster, having gone through pretty much any possible option at that point, and basically managed to make none of them work. So now, like the latest, and what the league actually confirmed on Tuesday, is that they're creating their own channel and their own platform to broadcast like those 8 out of 9 games, because beIN Sport is still having that last one. They announced that it will be available at a price of 15 euro per month if you commit for the full season, or 20 euro a month if you take it month by month. They announced that they might have a special offer for students and people less than 25 years old at 10 euro per month, but apparently, like technically, they can't have it at launch. So it's wait and see on that. And yeah, so they're building their own. They're looking for a company to work with who would actually do the content production. Looking at two options. One is a company of the same group as L'Equipe. So, it's kind of like in the sport media ecosystem anyway. And they're looking at like how they can broadcast all of this. So essentially, they're doing partnerships with every internet provider that they can get their hands on in France. They're trying to include the channel in gaming consoles. They're creating their own like digital platform, online website, app, and so on. And they had been trying to talk with Canal Plus again to get Canal Plus to not pay for the right, but broadcast that channel and essentially allow people to subscribe through them to get Ligue 1. Canal Plus, last we heard, essentially backtracked of those negotiations, went like what the product being offered doesn't really make sense in terms of pricing, in terms of not having every game and so on. So they stepped out of negotiations. So right now, like it looks like the league is pretty much on its own. My opinion now, honestly, like it's one of those things where it's a bit of a shame because ultimately, like it does feel that's probably like the less worst of all the options possible, and kind of like the way in which we should be going anyway. If we can't have like a long-term partnership with a Canal Plus and a very solid partner that we can build on season after season, reframe like the offering in terms of media, in terms of production, and so on and so forth. And at the same time, like get all of the people who went to piracy back into a paying option. Then yeah, like the league might as well do it on their own, build that capability, and prove that they're putting in the effort and make it into a more attractive option, either to keep doing it themselves if they find that it's actually like going in the right direction, or repackage it and resell it to Canal Plus or beIN Sport or whoever it might be down the road. The problem is that there's such a legacy of failure now that there's a lot of things that they're going to have to counteract. The fact is that people have gotten used to piracy. The fact is that people are like very reluctant to pay for leagues that like year after year is not really like increasing that much in quality as much as it pains me. And people aren't willing to pay because like they don't really get that much right now in terms of what is the content. So DAZN, it was like one of the reproaches that people were giving them is that yeah, you get the 90 minutes of the game, but essentially like there's no talk show before the game, there's not really that much going on at halftime, and there's nothing after. And so it's pretty poor in terms of consumer experience. DAZN was passing that criticism on to the club, saying like they're not really giving them access behind the scenes to have exclusive content and players' interviews and so on and so forth. And so all of this has created a backlog of bad feelings and disappointments and so on. And so now, like the league is going to have to work very, very hard to counteract that perception and really show that their product is worth paying that little bit of money for. Which is then critical for the football ecosystem because the clubs absolutely depend on getting some sort of money out of their TV rights. That's where we're super lucky in PSG that like we're so big and so solid and we get so much out of Europe and our own brand and our own like deals and so on that what we get from the French league is like it's a nice boon, but it's not like life or death for us. But literally, we might be like the only one within Ligue 1 who are in this situation, and so that's partly why Lyon is in such a bad situation right now. It's partly why like literally every club are having to sell a lot of players, having to reduce their spending. Essentially, they've been told to prepare their budget for the year under the hypothesis that they're not going to get any money from TV rights apart from what they get from beIN Sport and like little stipend from DAZN on breaking the contract. So for the clubs, it is a very, very dangerous and precarious situation to be in. And that's kind of why I also wanted to talk about it, because I think like for PSG and especially for PSG fan who like, I mean, I see the data from YouTube, like most of you guys watching aren't in France in the first place. So nothing is going to change like if you're watching Ligue 1 and PSG outside of France. But the impact on the ecosystem and on the business side of things, it's going to be significant and it's going to have an impact in the medium term for us as well. So I'll keep you posted on how things goes. I'm hoping against hope that actually like things develop in a better way than what it's been going on so far. They did bring in like some decent talent and they're talking with good companies to produce and so on. So there's a couple of positive signals, and so hopefully hopefully like things will land in the right way, and in a couple of years we can look back and just like look at this as a transition period that allowed to reset that whole media environment and broadcasting conversation. So yeah, we'll keep you posted. That was it for me today. Let me know like what you think on the Bayern Munich game. How do you feel about it? Like midweek, I think like it's funny because I think like some people are feeling like we're big favorites for it. Some people are feeling like it's very much 50-50. Some people are talking about like maybe Bayern is a little bit above because they're used to like playing together at a high level for a bit longer than us. So what do you think? We'll do a full preview anyway, so we'll ask the question again. But at this point and with like this level of information, like how are you guys feeling about it? And please like like the video as always. Always helps with getting more views into it and sharing it around. Don't hesitate to do that. Actually, share it with your friend, share it with your mom, share it with like whoever you want to. And please subscribe to the channel if you're not as well. Like I try to put out video every day. So if you want more content around PSG, the end of the Club World Cup, the Mercato window that's coming, all of the drama of French football and so on, you're in the right place. Please subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you guys soon. And don't forget, ici c'est Paris!